Good morning. You can take your seats if you would, please. First of all, welcome to SUNY IT here in Utica and the beautiful facility that we have to work at for today's preparedness seminar. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Assistant Adjutant General for the state of New York, Tony German. My boss, General Murphy, is over in Kuwait right now. He'll be back tomorrow morning, but he wishes he could be here. Today's the first of many first responder courses that we're going to hold across the state. The governor this morning was in Rockland County, and he's up here with us today. We're going to kick off things today. Brief introduction from myself. County Executive Principi will speak next. New York State Assemblyman Brindisi, and then New York State Senator Griffin, and then the governor. After those remarks, we'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll start 2 sessions. Both will run between 30 and 45 minutes. At the end, there'll be a time for some questions to the different experts that we have here in our field today. At the end of the day, each of you will receive a backpack filled with some goodies on emergency preparedness. We'll be able to take those home. There'll be one per family. And, you know, from us, it's just a pleasure to be here today. By showing up, you're showing your interest in how it is that we'll respond to a state disaster. In the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy, the state of New York committed unprecedented resources to the recovery effort and determined to rebuild all the communities that were damaged and ensure that they would come back and be stronger than ever. In his State of the State, the governor announced the Citizen Preparedness Training Corps programs, which is where we're at today. This will train New Yorkers to be ready for future emergencies or disasters. These sessions will be led by the men and women of the New York National Guard, working with experts from the New York State Division of Homeland Security, Emergency Services, Office of Emergency Management, and the Office of Fire Prevention and Control. Today is meant to serve as an introduction to responding to natural or man-made disasters. This program will provide you with the tools and resources to prepare for emergencies and disasters, to respond accordingly, and to recover as quickly as possible to pre-disaster conditions. Your training also shouldn't end today. The state has launched a new website that's called www.prepare.newyork.gov to serve as a digital home for citizen preparedness. On it, you'll find more information about additional training, more disaster preparedness tips, and ways to volunteer your skills in the event of a disaster. Our hope is that this session you'll become more involved in existing community-based emergency activities here and in whatever community you're from. I commend each one of you for being here today and really thank each of you for being here. It is now with great pleasure that I'm able to announce the Oneida County Executive, Mr. Anthony Principi. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, General. Good morning. It is an excellent turnout. I am so proud to see so many people here from our region. I want to thank you all. And before I just give a few remarks, I'd like to acknowledge some of the elected officials and dignitaries that have joined us here today. I'm very pleased to be joined by the Sheriff of Oneida County, Rob Mayshow. Sheriff, thank you. Mayor of the great city of Utica, Rob Mayshow, or Rob Palmieri. Yeah, I know I shouldn't have brought the list. Palmieri, he'll never let me forget that. Nobody will. Rob Palmieri, Mayor of Utica. The OGS Commissioner, our good friend and former Assemblywoman, Roanne DeStito. Roanne. And it's also great to see another great friend, our Congressman from Mike Arcuri. Michael, thank you. I want to also thank any other elected officials and dignitaries that have joined us here today if I miss you. And I'd like to also recognize, because it's very important, it's great to see the NJROTC and ROTC students that are here with us today. Take a bow. Please stand up. Please stand up. Thank you. As the General said, it's really important and it's really wonderful that all of you are here today on a Saturday to do this. We in this area have seen over the last few years, and the governor has been through this too much, and we all have in New York State, but it's things that we can't control. We can't control Mother Nature, but we can control how we respond. And the governor has been with us from day one, each and every day, with all of the communities throughout this state that have experienced storms like Hurricane Sandy, Tropical Storm Irene and Lee, and the numerous flooding that has taken place throughout the snowstorms of a week ago and throughout this winter. It is about being prepared. It is about making sure that you are prepared as our citizens. We have put together, and through the assistance of the governor and his team, put together the best emergency response network in New York State throughout our counties, villages, towns, cities, and New York State leadership has been there from the very beginning. And I want to thank personally, first of all, the governor for being with us today and for his leadership in emergency response throughout the state. Governor, thank you. He has been a governor that has reached out at every instance and has been here on the ground with us, working to make sure that our communities are built back and built back better, not just with the way they were, but even more so. So today really is a great opportunity and a wonderful setting to learn more, to be prepared. It is up to us as residents, as citizens, to also be prepared in the event of these emergencies as they happen throughout our community. So today, we thank you for being here on a Saturday. We want to really dig into the program and be the best prepared state. The Citizen Preparedness Corps is an outstanding initiative, another outstanding initiative by the governor, and we are very appreciative and grateful for his work, for his leadership, and we stand with him, and we will be prepared. We will be prepared for whatever strikes us, in the hopes that it doesn't again, but we will be prepared and we will be ready in those emergencies. So thank you all for being here. God bless each and every one of you, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce my partner, another partner in government, the Assemblyman for our region, Anthony Brindisi.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here this morning and to welcome all of you. It's my honor to be representing this area in the Assembly. But before being an Assemblyman, I'm very proud to say that I'm a New Yorker like all of you. And as New Yorkers, we certainly take care of one another in times of need. And over the past few years, we've had plenty of storms and emergencies there in our community. But I'm proud to say that through all the floods and major storms of the past 3 years, state government has been there for our community, and Governor Cuomo has been a central part of that. As we've seen, he's made sure that our local governments have the support they need to get the job done in an emergency, and his commitment to meeting local needs continues to help guide our recovery. Part of the recovery process, however, is more than what had happened in the past. It's also about preparing for the future, because as you know, the best defense is a good offense. Now, as we continue to make headway in the rebuilding process, rebuilding our homes, our businesses, our infrastructure, we must also strengthen the fabric of our communities, and that's our people. Earlier this year, the governor announced the Citizen Preparedness Corps Training program to do just that. Train 100,000 New Yorkers by the end of the year in the fundamentals of emergency preparedness and response. Just as we are physically preparing our communities for the new realities of extreme weather, this initiative is about teaching New Yorkers what they can do in their own homes and for their neighbors to prepare and respond to future emergencies. It's truly a visionary approach when you think about it, building a smarter, safer, and stronger New York from the ground up, and I want to applaud the governor's leadership and work bringing this all together. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for your interest in this subject, and I want to introduce my partner in government, State Senator Joe Griffin.
Well, what a great crowd. Thanks for being here today on a very cold winter day. And we know how to handle tough winters right here in upstate New York. Indeed, we do. And it's unfortunate, though, that we've had to come to experience more than just tough winters. because we've always seen climatic changes, and we know that how we are very resilient as a community when we deal with many of the issues and challenges that face all of us here. But we know now that we're not isolated, that what have been random acts of nature have become more regular acts of nature. And then we've seen and had to experience Irene, Lee, the storms such as those, and Sandy downstate. And we're fortunate that we have a governor who understands this and is ready and prepared to deal with this. We all know that he's a great sports enthusiast. He has been a true champion, showcasing all of the regions of New York State. In fact, he has challenged us in a number of ways for extreme sports. So when we have to deal with extreme weather, I don't know anyone that I'd rather have as our head coach than Governor Cuomo, because extreme weather can be very challenging, as we've seen. And what we experienced here in the state really was remarkable, because I found it very interesting that we had a team in place that was ready to deal with this. The governor immediately, upon understanding and knowing the significance and the impact of these new cycles and experiencing this extreme weather conditions that we've had to deal with here in our area and across the state, immediately not only was prompt in his response, but prepared through the organization and the resources of all the state agencies and their coordination, but also took decisive action. And that action came in a lot of ways, whether it was meeting financial needs, whether it was delivering state agency resources to the sites that needed them. And equally as important, and I think it's impressive if we stop and think about it, not only did he direct all of this activity to ensure that we were responding properly and dealing with the situations at hand, but he had the compassion and the empathy to be on the ground, to support the troops of the state of New York, whatever agency that may be, but also to come into our communities and show that he cared. He came firsthand to look at the situation, to find out what was happening, and to ensure that things were being done, not only to be sensitive to the needs of the people, most importantly, but also to the economy of the area and what it meant to the community in general. So, Governor, I want to thank you not only for your leadership in developing this Civilian Preparedness Corps, which I think is going to be very important to get all of our residents ready and capable to deal with situations, because we know as New Yorkers that we are there for one another and that in times of need we are ready and willing to help one another. But this is another step now where we can continue to exercise vigilance and preparation in dealing with the challenges. And we want to thank you again for your excellent leadership and stewardship. And it's my pleasure and honor to present to you the Governor of the State of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you. It's my pleasure to be back, and I too would like to thank you very much for taking the time to come out on a Saturday. First, to General Anthony German and to all the National Guard. The National Guard are the state's workforce in times of emergency. And when everyone else is running into their home for shelter, the National Guard literally is running out to protect us. They do an extraordinary job. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you very much. To Anthony Pacenti, Senator Pacenti, oh, I'm sorry, County Executive Pacenti. That was for you, Mayor. I was just kidding. County Executive Pacenti, you know he's an extraordinary administrator, and he's just done great work for the county. But in many ways, during these times of emergency is when you really see what a person is made of. You know, when the pressure is on, you really get to see people, for better or for worse. And I have been out there with your county executive when times were very tough and there was a lot of pressure in the middle of these emergencies, and I tell you, he's been a phenomenal leader, and you are lucky to have him. County Executive Anthony Pacenti. Your Senator Joe Griffin, we do a lot of good work in Albany, but then when he was talking about the extreme sports, part of what we do, part of what I do, try to do, is get attention for all the beautiful things we have in upstate New York. Because upstate New York is a story that has not been told, especially from a tourism point of view. Everybody talks about Manhattan, New York City, 50 million tourists a year come to New York City. We want to tell the story about upstate New York and all the things we have in upstate New York, try to get those tourists coming north. So one of the devices we use is I'll do a number of activities across the state, and we try to get some publicity for that part of the state. And one of the things I do is I challenge the legislators to come and join me. And it's one of the ways I get to vent my hostility towards the legislators. And it also generates publicity for the region, so you really get two things done with one stone. So we had a rafting challenge in the Adirondacks. We did that. Senator Griffin was right there. Wasn't successful. But he paddled like heck, I want you to know. We have a big fishing tournament coming up. A couple of weeks ago, we went on a snowmobiling track, Tug Hill Plateau. We went snowmobiling. It was 5 degrees, so you had to be very hardy to get out there on a snowmobile. It's also safe to say your senator is not a great driver on a snowmobile. He cut me off twice. He was actually ticketed by the state police, failure to yield for the governor, which is a very peculiar traffic violation. Most people don't know about it, but it's especially true on a snowmobile. But he's always there to represent you. He's always there to help the state. And he's a good sport and a good friend whenever he does it. Senator Joe Griffin, pleasure to be with you. Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi, who is the next generation and a young star, pleasure to be with you, Assemblyman. Give him a round of applause. And I want to thank them both. We've taken a different track in Albany. You know, for many, many years, Albany just didn't work. The government just didn't work. Before Washington discovered gridlock, Albany had discovered gridlock. You know, Washington just copied what was going on in Albany. Every year, Albany would come to do the budget, and it was always just chaos, right? And you'd watch the news, and they would talk about Albany's supposed to have a budget done by April 1. It was always late. People were always pointing fingers. We sat down 3 years ago, and we said we're going to try it a different way. Yes, we're Democrats. Yes, we're Republicans. Yes, we're from upstate. Yes, we're from downstate. But you know what? We are New Yorkers first. And let's act like New Yorkers, and let's leave the politics at the door, and let's get something done for the people of the state. And that is just what we have been doing. And this state is turned around fundamentally. The state is working. The government is working. Jobs are up. Taxes are down. People are coming back. And I want to thank them for their cooperation. I want to thank them for putting the politics aside, which isn't always easy, and finding compromise and cooperation rather than confrontation. One more round of applause. To all the other elected officials and to all the VIPs who are here. Today's message is very simple, and you heard it from the other speakers. As governor of the state of New York, I have many headaches to deal with. I have budget headaches. I have prison headaches. The thing that keeps me up most at night, actually what keeps me up most at night is one of my daughters, but put her aside for a second. What keeps me up most at night is the fear of these emergencies and these situations that have been arising with more and more frequency, more and more regularity, and I believe are only going to continue. I've been governor for 3 years. There have been 9 federally declared disasters in 3 years. My father was governor for 12 years. He had a handful of federally declared disasters. The weather pattern is different. I don't want to get into what caused the weather pattern, global warming. Everybody's got a theory, and it's a very controversial topic. What is inarguable is that the weather patterns are different. That is inarguable. The cause you can argue. The effect you can't argue. We're getting more rain, more floods. We never had hurricanes before. This is New York. We didn't have hurricanes. We didn't have earthquakes. We now are seeing weather patterns that we haven't seen. The First flood, they said, well, this is a 1 in 100 year flood, they told me. I've now seen 5 1 in 100 year floods. They talk about the new normal. The old paradigm just doesn't exist anymore. And everyone says these extreme weather conditions are going to get worse, not better. Okay, so what do? So we've gone through it. Frankly, we've been lucky, I believe, in some of these situations. We've lost lives over the past 3 years in some of these situations. We could have lost more. I want to make sure we are learning from them and we're making sure we're better prepared for the next time. We are doing that as a government every way that we can. And we have a very exciting program that we've been working on for the past 2 years. It's actually coming to a head this year. We're doing more than ever before. We're going to have the most sophisticated weather detection system in the United States right here in the state of New York. Why? Because when you hear the National Weather Service says this forecast, that actually comes from that state's weather detection system. And our weather detection system just frankly isn't good enough. And this isn't like whether or not you're going to have a picnic. If you get bad information on weather forecasting, it can actually affect the way you deploy forces and can affect whether or not people live or die. During Irene and Lee, the forecast was it was going to hit New York City. We deployed everything from across the state to New York City. We brought people down from Buffalo to New York City. What happens is it didn't hit New York City. Mike Bloomberg does a press conference, says this is great. The storm missed New York City. Yeah, but it hit the Hudson Valley and hit the North Country, and we had sent everyone down to New York City. That's not going to happen again. We're going to have the most sophisticated weather detection system literally in the country, 125 different sections all across upstate New York, Long Island, New York City, so we'll know what's happening when, and we'll have advanced notice with high-level sophistication that feeds into a satellite. We're going to have the first college in the United States to train emergency personnel on emergency management procedures. There is no college that does it. There are courses in college, but we're going to have the first college literally in the country to train the best. We're going to redesign how we build homes. You're going to see homes in New York on stilts, which you never saw in New York before. You saw it in the Southeast somewhat, but we're literally redesigning how we build homes. We're redesigning where we build homes. And we're actually deconstructing some homes that were built in areas that shouldn't have been built in the first place. Why? Because when Mother Nature comes, she visits. We are training all emergency personnel across the state to the same protocol. So a county emergency officer does the same thing as a state emergency officer, does the same thing as a city emergency officer. So everyone literally is operating from the same book. So government is doing everything that it can do. But I believe our greatest asset is what we're doing here today. Why? Because the first responders in every situation are you. The first responder in your home is you. The first responder for your family is you. The first responder for your children is you. And the best thing we can do is educate and inform and equip you. You have to make a decision whether you stay in the house or whether you evacuate. The more information you have, the better position you will be in to protect yourself and your loved ones. And by the way, once you take care of your family, your unit, you can help your neighbor. You can help your block. You can help your community. We do this right. We form a network. You'll know the other people in your community who are also trained. And you'll have colleagues to work with in addressing your community. And one of the things I've learned over and over, we have great first responders. Really, we've been blessed. People with courage, that's amazing. But what ordinary citizens do in these situations is amazing. And their courage and their leadership and how they want to help, it is a tremendous asset. And if they're informed and they're equipped and they know what they're doing, boy, that's going to be a fantastic force. And that's what today is all about. to get you the basic training, the basic information, just as a starting point. General German is exactly right. You're not going to learn everything today. I hope that you get excited about what you learned today, and you want to learn more and you want to come back. We're going to have a website that has advanced training in all these areas. We're going to do additional sessions, but it will be a start. And if we have the people of this state trained and ready, then I'm with the county executive. There's nothing that we're not going to be able to handle. And I'll end where I started. You know, the great asset, the great lesson was what the people we have in this state. You know, they talk about New Yorkers, and they talk about how New Yorkers are tough. Yeah, we can be tough. You have to be tough to live in this state and deal with what we deal with. But what I've learned firsthand, New Yorkers are also loving, and New Yorkers are also charitable, and New Yorkers are there one for another. And when times are tough and you need a friend, there's nothing like a New Yorker, because we rise to the occasion every time. We have the facts, we have the lessons, we have the equipment, and this state is going to be better prepared than any state in the United States of America, because we have the best group of people of any state in the United States of America. And that's what this session is all about. Thank you for being here. God bless you.
Governor, thanks so much for your comments. That ends this session of